Hello there YouTube, this is eGaming Television bringing you another Season 6 Patch 6.3 guide, and in this one we are covering Kog'Maw, the Mouth of the Abyss.
Time to feast!
So Kog'Maw is easily considered a god tier AD carry right now, considering the changes he got in 6.3, and as I'm showing you the first blood here, I'm going to tell you about what exactly changed in 6.3 that made him such a good champion again. So this here is directly from the League of Legends patch notes, and the main thing here is that you can see the Q's attack speed passive shifted to the W, and W now also has a minimum damage. Now no matter what patch it was, we always max W on Kog'Maw first, however now W is even better. It's guaranteed to do 15 bonus magic damage, which is really nice, but now it also gives you the passive attack speed. For old school Kog'Maw, we would have to max our Q second so we could get this attack speed. However, now that we get it in our W, we're able to max our E, which is much better than our Q second. Due to just these changes here, Kog'Maw is now the highest win rate champion in the entire game. At the time of this recording, he has a 57.1% win rate, which is, as I said, number 1 overall. The other thing to note here is that he's also the only AD carry in the top 15. AD carries usually aren't found in the top 15 for win rate, but because of how strong Kog'Maw is, he is number 1. Because of how strong he is banned all the time. However, whenever you have the opportunity to pick him as an AD carry player, you should probably do so. So let's explore this a bit more by looking at his pros and cons, starting with his first pro, which is he has insanely high damage potential. And this is the highest damage potential of any AD carry in the game. This is all because of his W and the item build we're able to go for. With both a Ginsu's and Runan's in our build, we're able to do a ton of AoE damage, even though he is kind of a single target champion. This also does a percentage of maximum health, so we also take down tanky champions rather quick on Kog'Maw as well. If all of that damage wasn't enough, we even have a very long range execute on our ultimate to finish off people trying to run away. We're going to look at our W a bit more later on, in depth. However, it is an amazing ability, by far the best on any AD carry. Another reason the W is so amazing, and is his second pro, is that he has a 710 attack range when his W is active. This is the longest basic attack range in the game, and on top of it, he's even got a long range execute, which is even farther. With just his W and R, Kog'Maw is able to dispose of enemies very fast from a long range. Even though he is an immobile AD carry, even if people flash away from them, with these ranges, he's able to still land those kills. Kog'Maw's next pro is that he's an amazing late game hyper carry. If he is left alone in teamfights, he's able to dispose of enemies faster than any other AD carry, or champion for that matter, in the game. He's like Vayne in the sense that he starts off rather weak, but gets stronger and stronger as the game goes on. His passive is by no means game breaking, however he can land kills after his death with it. For 4 seconds after he dies, he pretty much becomes a little ghost, and after the 4 seconds, blows up, dealing a bunch of damage. It's really nice if you are in those 1v1 situations where you barely manage to lose the fight, at least you can still land those kills. Now although Kog'Maw is easily one of the strongest champions in the game at the moment, he still has a number of cons. The first one of these cons is that he's very squishy, and he has no escape. He does not have a nice little dash like say a Lucian, and he is not as tanky as say a Graves or Ezreal. Because of the fact that he's very squishy and he has no escape, he is very reliant on great positioning. As strong as Kog'Maw is, if you're not able to position correctly, you may end up just feeding the enemy team. You have very long ranges, so there is no reason to be in the front line with your Alistar. Another con that Kog'Maw does have is he must stand still for maximum damage. A champion such as Lucian can actually dash forward so he gets his passive proc and do more damage that way. Same as for Ezreal, and same as for Graves. If Kog'Maw's running forward or backwards, he is actually losing out on some of his damage. This means he won't always be doing his maximum amount of damage since he's trying to move away, because people are definitely trying to get on top of Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw's third con is that he's also got a bad early game. This got a little bit better than it was before, considering his W is guaranteed to at least do 15 extra damage, and he can max his E. Although he's not as bad as he was before, he can still definitely not outtrade something like a Lucian. He's one of those typical AD carries who's really strong late game, so they have to get as much farm in the lane, so they can win the game in the late game. Kog'Maw's last con is that he needs peel from his team. This can actually be one of the shittier ones because sometimes people on your team don't really know how to play their roles, and you might end up in shitty situations. I'd only recommend picking Kog in a team that actually has some champions who can peel for him, such as the Alistar in this one. Positioning as good as possible can make this not as big of a con, however, people are going to be trying to get on top of you, like I have said before. For Kog's Masteries, we go 18 Ferocity and 12 Cunning, and this is because Fervor of Battle with his attack speed is incredible on Kog'Maw. We first start by getting Fury for the 4% attack speed as he scales off attack speed very well. We then move into Feast, so killing a unit restores 20 health, which is on 25-second cooldown since he is rather weak in the lane. To get even more sustain out of the lane, he then gets Vampirism for 2% lifesteal and Spell Vamp. Kog'Maw is a champion that has a reliable slow in his kit, so we do take Oppressor, which is deal 2.5% increased damage to targets with impaired movement, which is slows, stuns, roots, taunts, and etc. We then move into Battering Blows for 7% armor penetration, and finally into Fervor of Battle. So for Fervor, you generate stacks of Fervor by hitting enemy champions with attacks and abilities. Your basic attacks deal between 1 and 14 bonus physical damage, which is based off of your level, to enemy champions for each of your stacks, which is a maximum of 8. For Kog'Maw, his attacks generate 1 stack of Fervor, his abilities do 2 stacks of Fervor, and the stacks last 6 seconds. For the Cunning side, we start by taking Savagery, so we get 5 more bonus damage to minions and monsters, just so last hitting is a bit easier. To get just a bit more sustain, we then get Secret Stash, so our potions and elixirs last 10% longer and they are turned into biscuits. We then take the usual combo of Merciless and Dangerous Game, so we do a bit more damage to people below 40% health, and when they do die, we get 5% of our missing health and mana. For our runes, we take 9 greater marks of attack damage, 9 greater seals of armor, 9 greater glyphs of magic resist, and 3 greater quintessences of attack speed. These are the very traditional runes for AD carries, and it equals to 8.5 attack damage, 9 armor, 12 magic resist, and 13.5% attack speed. We get some nice defensives from the armor and magic resist, and some nice damage from the attack damage and the attack speed. The summoners, like always for AD carries, are Flash and Heal. Flash has a lot of defensive and offensive uses. This can allow you to escape from champions diving into your team's backline, or can be used to chase opponents if needed. You don't have to use it to chase very often as Cog, considering your attack range is so damn long. Heal is by far the best summoner for bot lane. It helps both you and your lane partner, which gives it a lot of utility. You can use it to save yourself, an ally, or to bait. Now we're going to jump into each of Cog's abilities, starting with his passive, which is called Icathian Surprise. Upon taking fatal damage, Kog'Maw remains active for 4 seconds, losing the ability to use abilities and basic attacks, but becoming untargetable and invulnerable and gaining bonus movement speed over duration, increasing to up to 40% bonus movement speed. He then explodes, dealing between 125 and 550, based on level, true damage to all nearby enemies. Now this is an okay passive. It doesn't actually offer him anything when he is alive, not that he needs it, however he can finish up kills with this when he dies. I have been in situations, especially early game, where I do use this to secure a kill when I do die. The numbers don't sound that high, however it is true damage, so it is not mitigated at all. It's also worth noting that you can use these on minions to counter people pushing stuff into your tower as well after you do die. A bunch of people will push a minion wave into your tower when you die, so you do miss the experience. However, if you do get the kills with your passive, you do get this gold at least, and you won't miss the stuff under your tower. Alright, so now we land at his Q, which is called Caustic Spittle. Kog'Maw launches a corrosive projectile in a target direction, dealing magic damage to the first enemy it hits, and reducing their armor and magic resistance for 4 seconds. The magic damage it deals is between 80 and 280 plus 50% AP, and the resistance reduction is between 12 and 28%. The range of the ability is 1175, it's 60 mana, and the cooldown is 8 seconds. So this used to be what you had to max second on Kog'Maw since this had the attack speed on it. However, now that it doesn't have the attack speed, it's actually a pretty shitty skill. Due to the W and E being way better, we don't even grab a single point in this until we have to, which is at level 13. The magic damage is rather subpar, and the resistance reduction isn't that big of a deal on Kog'Maw, so it's not that big of a priority to put on a target. However, when you are in late game, you will want to put this onto a tanky target when you have the opportunity. Since Kog'Maw does do so much damage, however, and he does do it based on percentage of target's health, this doesn't even make that big of a difference. Now we arrive at his W, and this is why Kog'Maw is so damn strong, and it is called Bio-Arcane Barrage. For the passive, Kog'Maw permanently has bonus attack speed, and the bonus attack speed is between 15 and 35%. As I've said a few times, this was on the Q, however now it's on the W, which makes the skill even better than it already was. When activated, for 6 seconds, Kog'Maw gains bonus attack range, doubles his total attack speed, and auto attack speed cap, also having his abilities cast times. We of course get the Runaan's early on as Kog'Maw, so this is a crapload of attack speed, and it's why he's so broken right now. While Bio Arcane Barrage is active, Kog'Maw's basic attacks deal 55% AD physical damage to non-minions, though on-hit effects are still fully applied, and deal 2% plus 0.75% per 100 AP of target's max health bonus magic damage. The bonus damage has a minimum damage threshold of 15 and is capped at 100 to non-champions. The range gets bigger as you level it. It starts at 590 and ends at 710. The cost is 40 mana, and the cooldown goes from 13 to 7 seconds. So this means at max rank, you have the longest basic attack range in the game, and you can have it up for half of the time. With this ability, he's also doing a lot of AD and AP, so he doesn't really need to get the armor penetration as much as a traditional AD carry. It's kind of hard to describe how fast he actually attacks and how quick he can bring down even tanky targets, so honestly that's just something you're going to see in the gameplay. It's really astonishing how fast people do die. With the new Kog'Maw buffs, this is basically leveling 2 skills in one. The Q was only taken for the attack speed, and the W was taken because it's his best skill. Now that they've combined them both, this is a ridiculous friggin' skill. Alright, so that brings us to our second best basic ability, which is his E and is called Void Ooze. Kog'Maw spews a ball of ooze in the target direction, dealing magic damage and slowing enemies for 1 second. The ooze lingers for 4 seconds, slowing enemies who stand in the ooze and persisting for an additional 0.25 seconds. The magic damage it deals is between 60 and 260 plus 70% AP, and the slow goes from 20 to 52%. The range is 1280, the speed is 1350, the cost goes from 80 to 120 mana, and the cooldown is always 12 seconds. So this is better than our Q not only because the damage is better with a better ratio, but it applies a slow and a pretty big range as well. If he places this well in a team fight, he's actually able to kite a lot easier since people are going to be slowed by 52% at max rank. He also gets a little bit of AP in his build with the Ginsus, so this can actually do a nice little chunk of damage to a team that it rolls through as well. The skill is also great because it can actually secure a lot of kills for you. If you do throw this through somebody and they're trying to run away, you can usually get off enough auto attacks with your W to kill them before they even get out of the ooze. Early on, this can also be used to shoot through a bunch of minions if you do wish to push through the lane, as they do all take the damage. Now that brings us to our ultimate, which is called Living Artillery. Kog'Maw launches a ball of acid into the air that drops after 0.6 seconds at the target location, damaging all enemies hit and granting sight of them for 2 seconds. So not even getting to the damage, this is already great as the cooldown is really low, as in 1 second low, and you can use it in bushes to check if they are safe before you actually move into them. So as good as it already is for an AD carry, let's get into the damage portion. So the magic damage is between 70 and 150, plus 65% bonus AD and 25% AP. Living Artillery's damage is doubled against enemies below 50% maximum health and tripled against enemies below 25% maximum health. So the doubled magic damage is between 140 and 300, plus 130% bonus AD and 50% AP, and the maximum magic damage is between 210 and 450, plus 195% bonus AD and 75% AP. Now I'm sure you guys can see why I've called this a long range execute, because it does do 195% bonus AD against people below 25% health, and that's pretty much a kill. Each subsequent Living Artillery within the next 10 seconds costs 50 additional mana, capping at 500 mana per cast. The range goes from 1200 to 1800, and the little radius of the ability is 100. The cost goes from 50 to 500 mana based on casts, like I said, and the cooldown goes from 2 to 1 second. That's great because you can use this a few times if somebody's running away to try to get the finishing blow. This is actually a really amazing ultimate on Kog'Maw, considering he is very squishy unsafe. He can check bushes before he goes in. He also has the opportunity to kill somebody from an 1800 range with a ton of damage. Since it does provide sight, it's also very good against something like an Akali who you know is going to be sitting in her circle, and you can usually hit them, granting sight, and getting to kill them. With all those abilities covered, we're going to look at the ability order for Kog'Maw. This starts with your ultimate, Living Artillery. You take it at 6, 11, and 16. You follow that up with your broken W, which is called Bio Arcane Barrage. You take it at 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. You then move into your E, which is called Void Ooze. You take it at 2, 4, 8, 10, and 12. And finally, your Q, Caustic Spittle, which is rather useless. You take it at 13, 14, 15, 17, and 18. It's an ability so underwhelming, we don't even take one early level into it. Now we arrive at Kog'Maw's item build, which starts with a Doran's Blade, Health Potion, and a Warding Totem. The core build in all cases for Kog'Maw is a Ginsu's, Runaan's, Boots of Swiftness, and a Farsight Altercation. An example full build if you didn't need the QSS would be the Ginsu's, Runaan's, Boots of Swiftness, Styrax Gauge just to get a little tanky, Blade of the Ruin King considering it works very well with the attack speed and the added damage on Kog'Maw, and a Maw if you were against a nice amount of AP champions. This gives a nice little shield when you are low, but also provides a little bit of armor penetration, which is a nice thing to have on him as well. If you needed a QSS, you would simply replace the Maw and get it rather early on with a Mercurial Scimitar. The rest of the build would be the same, however, generally you need the QSS a bit early on so you wouldn't save it for the very end. Some good alternatives would be an LDR if you were against an insanely high armor team, a Wit's End, which actually adds a nice amount of damage with the speed that Kog'Maw attacks at, or a Guardian Angel if you're getting dove on over and over again, which, might be the case. Kog'Maw reaches a massive power spike when he does have his Ginsu's and Runaan's. Both of these in combination allow him to attack at a very high speed and in an AoE. Although Kog'Maw is technically a single target champion, with both of these items in combination, he does a ton of AoE damage. If people are grouped up somewhat, he can actually dispose of an entire team insanely fast. So Kog'Maw is easily considered a god tier AD carry right now, considering the changes he got in 6.3. And as I'm showing you the first blood here, I'm going to tell you about what exactly changed in 6.3 that made him such a good champion again. So this here is directly from the League of Legends patch notes, and the main thing here is that you can see the Q's attack speed passive shifted to the W, and W now also has a minimum damage. Now no matter what patch it was, we always max W on Kog'Maw first, however now W is even better. It's guaranteed to do 15 bonus magic damage, which is really nice, but now it also gives you the passive attack speed. For old school Kog'Maw, we would have to max our Q second so we could get this attack speed. However, now that we get it in our W, we're able to max our E, which is much better than our Q second. Due to just these changes here, Kog'Maw is now the highest win rate champion in the entire game. At the time of this recording, he has a 57.1% win rate, which is, as I said, number 1 overall. The other thing to note here is that he's also the only AD carry in the top 15. AD carries usually aren't found in the top 15 for win rate, but because of how strong Kog'Maw is, he is number 1. Because of how strong he is banned all the time. However, whenever you have the opportunity to pick him as an AD carry player, you should probably do so.